Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I will be covering northeast snowstorm through late tonight and also severe weather across the Gulf Coast later on today into this evening. Then an Arctic plunge takes over across the United States beginning on Monday and going through early February. And then a significant winter storm takes shape next week with crippling ice and heavy rainfall possible. All that and much more coming up in this video. Looking here ahead this morning, we got some cold temperatures again up to the north across the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, and much of the upper Midwest here. We're waking up to single digits below zero, if not double digits below zero here up into southern portions of Canada across Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. Again, waking up to 25 to nearly 30 degrees below zero this morning. And this is again a 25-degree temperature change from just 24 hours ago across most of the Pacific Northwest and the North Central Plains. And look it up here into Quebec, guys, 40 to 45-degree temperature change in 24 hours here to this morning. So definitely a big shock of the system out there with all of this cold weather moving in. But by this afternoon, we got some temperatures moving down into the teens for highs here into portions of Kansas, getting into northern portions of Missouri and northwestern Illinois. That extends into eastern Wisconsin. But farther north from there, temperatures will be either side of zero into the single digits today across the Dakotas, Minnesota, back across Montana and Wyoming. And you can bet farther north, I know you don't see the colors here, but you can bet farther north into southern Canada, we'll see below zero high temperatures going through this afternoon. But if you guys are with me here on this video, don't forget to press the subscribe button down below. You get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel each and every morning. Also hit that like button, it's that thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to get all of this weather information out to more and more people, so I definitely appreciate that. We are closing in on 20,000 subscribers, so hit the subscribe button and the like button down below, and it is very much appreciated. But moving up here across the Northeast today, we're tracking the lingering effect of that Clipper system that did move through the northern plains and the Great Lakes region here on Saturday. That is continuing to move up across portions of the eastern Great Lakes into interior New England and southeastern Canada through the noon time frame. We're seeing some moderate to heavy snow up here into Montreal, upstate New York, getting into portions of northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and portions of Maine as well. That will move up to the northeast fairly quickly this afternoon, about the 6 o'clock time frame. We're getting ready for dinner. We're going to be shutting off the snow machine up here into the interior New England regions with maybe some lingering moderate snow showers into northern Maine. But by the time we get into late this evening around the 11 o'clock time frame, we are just seeing some lingering flurries and maybe some freezing drizzle at times across parts of interior New England during late this evening. Additional snowfall accumulation through the day today. A few inches of snow can be expected, especially up here toward the lakes into portions of eastern Michigan, getting in towards the Canadian side of things into Ontario and Quebec. But then upstate New York, getting into northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and portions of north central Maine, we could be adding up anywhere from 3 to 6 more inches of snow up here through the day today. And that is going to be causing some minor travel inconveniences, especially for back here across eastern Michigan and then extending up into upstate New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and portions of northern Maine as well going through the day today. So just take it slow on the roads, and I promise you guys will get to your destination safe and sound later on today. But a different story down to the south. The Storm Prediction Center has hoisted a marginal risk. That's a level 1 of 5 on the scale here for severe weather across portions of southeast Texas, getting into southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, and the northwestern side of the Florida Panhandle. This includes Corpus Christi on up through Houston, getting in towards Lake Charles here, New Orleans, and portions of Mobile, Alabama later on today. We also do have that 2% shading for tornadoes, so we could have a few spin-up tornadoes, especially along the immediate Gulf Coast from the Corpus Christi area on up through Houston, Lake Charles, and near the New Orleans region later on this afternoon and getting in towards this evening. The reason for that, the Gulf of Mexico is open for moisture. The dew points will be rising well into the 60s, probably near 70 degrees along the immediate Gulf Coast near the shoreline there into coastal Texas, coastal Louisiana, and parts of southern Mississippi and Alabama as well later on this afternoon. And we're going to see kind of a messy mode of severe weather. We're going to have some line segments producing some damage damaging winds out here, some large hail, also some supercells at times built into this line of storms as we start around the noon time frame. That will move farther to the east. Storms will be rumbling across Mississippi into southern Alabama and southwestern portions of Georgia, and eventually getting into northwest Florida in toward the dinner time frame here this evening around 6 o'clock. And then by the time we move into 6 a.m. on Monday morning, getting ready for work and school out there, we're just going to be seeing some scattered showers, a few rumbles of thunder, but nothing severe, I don't think, by the time we get to Monday morning there around 6 a.m. This will be dropping some heavy rain, so even if you don't see severe weather from this system, we're going to see lots of heavy rainfall across the central Gulf Coast states from East Texas, getting through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia here, and some of this heavy rain even extends up into the coastal Carolinas as well. Wherever you see these brighter blues, you're at least guaranteed an inch of rain, and even some of these purples and reds showing up down here into southern Louisiana, southwestern Mississippi, and then extending across southern portions of Alabama and Georgia. That's at least 2 inches of rain or more through the day today, so definitely watch out for some flooding out there. There is a marginal to slight risk for flash flooding across those areas here. This extends from Houston up through Lake Charles, getting in toward the Jackson, Mississippi area, just into portions of southern Alabama, and then getting in here toward Macon, Georgia as well, into southwest Georgia from today into the day tomorrow. So definitely continue to watch that throughout the next 24 to 36 hours. But beyond that, it's all about the cold. That Arctic plunge is going to be plunging far south. This is going to be reaching into the southern plains on Monday the 30th, and this really continues in a big way going into the very end of the month of January on Tuesday, January 31st. And looking at the temperatures, waking up Monday morning for work or school, definitely bundle up, guys. It's going to be very cold up here. We got low temperatures waking up into the teens, below zero into the Dakotas, up into Minnesota and Wisconsin, and farther north, 25 to 30 degrees below zero temperatures waking up on Monday morning, and even that freezing line extending down through the Ohio Valley, parts of the Arklatex into central Texas here as well, including the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Yes, we'll be waking up below freezing Monday morning. And looking at the Monday morning wind chills out there, it's going to be brutal up to the north. Those wind chills will be 30 to even 35 degrees below zero across the Dakotas, getting into Minnesota, and farther north into Canada here, we're talking 40 to 45 degrees below wind chills, below zero wind chills up here. So definitely very cold. Do bundle up Monday morning. And we're only going to recover into the single digits below zero up here into the upper Midwest and much of southern Canada in the teens below zero by Monday afternoon. And you can see exactly where that freezing line is from northwest and central Texas, extending on up through the Missouri Valley and the Ohio River Valley Monday afternoon. And again, Tuesday afternoon as well, that same freezing line will be in those same areas with those teens to the north and single digits above or below zero farther north from there into the Midwest, and then teens below zero here, getting up into portions of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec, Canada by Tuesday afternoon. But then as we get into next weekend on Saturday, February 4th, we're going to start to exit this cold air out to the north and east here across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. These are your high temperatures going into Saturday, below zero up in here into portions of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and New York State. But milder temperatures starting to move in from the southwest across the southern plains and the Gulf Coast on Saturday. And by the time we get into late next weekend on Sunday, February 5th, it does appear that we will start to get rid of the Arctic chill as that pushes farther north and east into Canada for the time being, going in toward that Sunday, February 5th time frame. And we'll start to replace those single digits and teens and 20s for highs back into the 40s and 50s down here across portions of the Missouri Valley and the Ohio Valley and parts of the lower Great Lakes, at least getting into late next week. And as we get into early on the week, though, we have to watch out for a significant winter storm looking to take shape across the southern plains and the southeastern United States here. So this system will be originating across the southwestern United States here going into the day tomorrow. You definitely see that bowling ball type of trough down here with the positive tilt on it across southern California. That will pivot its way slowly across the desert southwest to the Four Corners region into West Texas by the middle of the week on Wednesday, February 1st. And you see how this elongates itself. It's not really tight and spiraled up like it was back into Southern California. Well, that's concerning because it's going to have a conveyor belt of moisture moving out of the Pacific Ocean pointed right at Texas and the Southern Plains. And that is going to make for some significant travel impacts, especially when we see wintry precipitation going through the week. So this is on Monday, January 30th at 3 o'clock. We see that low pressure system across the lee side of the Rockies, maybe some Rocky Mountain snow back here into Utah, western Colorado, and northern Arizona. Maybe some scattered showers into southern California with that parent trough farther off to the west. But as we get into Tuesday morning, you don't really see it showing up here, but it is still concerning because even though you don't see any pinks and purples here across Texas, I do think we will start to see freezing drizzle become an impact across portions of northwest Texas, say up here towards Wichita Falls, getting up toward the Red River here and into the Oklahoma City metro area, and then farther north and east toward Little Rock, and that extends in towards western and middle Tennessee and even into Kentucky Tuesday morning. And looking at those low level temperatures, this is about 2,000 to about 5,000 feet up above our heads of where we live, and you can see that warm nose aloft moving in from the southwest across portions of the southern plains and the southern United States as a whole on Tuesday afternoon. But you see high temperatures Tuesday near the surface where we live are actually going to be at or below freezing here. So this is concerning again for those freezing drizzle events and even those freezing rain events across the southern plains, getting up into the mid-Mississippi Valley towards early to midweek. And again, with this freezing rain potential, it starts off as snow well into the upper levels, but then it melts into raindrops going through much of the mid and low levels of the atmosphere. But by the time it reaches the contact of the pavement and concrete down at the surface, it refreezes because the temperatures near the surface are at or below freezing, and that's why we have the freezing rain out there. So definitely something to keep in mind as we go through next week. And into Tuesday afternoon, we start to see more of that sleet, freezing rain across the Little Rock area, back into the DFW Metroplex. Definitely a rough go of it there for some icy roadways Tuesday afternoon. And then we'll see still some rain showers and even some freezing drizzle continue in toward Wednesday morning into the afternoon hours as well, around the noon time frame across the mid-Mississippi Valley, back southwestward in toward the DFW Metroplex and much of North Texas and Oklahoma during that period. So the total ice accumulation from Monday the 30th through Wednesday the February 1st, there will be a narrow zone, and wherever this sets up, there could be some crippling ice, potentially upwards of about a half an inch of ice here. Zooming this in, again, this could wobble again south and east or north and west over the next couple of days. We'll be tracking this, but there is some signal here for at least a quarter to half an inch of ice, if not maybe a little more in spots. This does include the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex back into central Texas, when the higher amounts of ice do appear up here towards Little Rock, getting into Memphis and western portions of Tennessee toward Jackson, Tennessee, and even near the Nashville area as we go into that especially Tuesday and Wednesday time frame. So definitely quarter inch to half an inch of ice that can weigh down the power lines. You could have power outages. So I just want you guys to be safe out here. Just keep in mind the travel will be impacted going in towards that early and mid portion of this upcoming week. But it's also the heavy rain as well. Wednesday into Thursday here, we're going to see some heavy rain. Where it's liquid rainfall, it's going to be falling pretty heavily across East Texas, getting through the Arklatex into portions of northern Mississippi, northern Alabama here. That's that marginal to slight risk of flash flooding here. We are at least seeing an inch or two of rain on Wednesday into Thursday morning, and then another inch or two of rain across portions of central Mississippi, central portions of Alabama into North Georgia, including this time the Atlanta metro area, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, and back toward Jackson, Mississippi, with that marginal and slight risk for flash flooding from Thursday into Friday, February 3rd. But putting the next 7 days together for rainfall accumulation, it's going to be very busy across the southern United States, especially across the central Gulf Coast states, getting across the southeast here. Wherever you see the darker reds here, that's at least 3 to 4, even 5 inches worth of rain from now through next weekend on Sunday, February 5th. And again, you see across the north, though, north central United States, we're seeing bone dry conditions for the most part going through the next week, with a break from the weather systems across these areas. And again, that's not helping at all the the stress that the drought is having on a lot of these areas. We're still seeing those severe, extreme, and exceptional drought categories hoisted all the way up here to the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, and parts of Oklahoma. And unfortunately, that heavy rainfall is going to be falling in a place where they don't really need that much more rainfall here. If this was farther off to the north and west, that would be a big help. But unfortunately, we're seeing that falling across the central Gulf Coast states into the southeast as we get in towards this upcoming week. But going into Saturday, February 4th, we're going to quiet down the weather pattern. So after this significant winter storm does move through, this will be quieting down. Lots more sunshine to talk about. There will be a system moving in the Pacific Northwest on Sunday, February 5th towards Seattle, Portland, Oregon, and Northern California, bringing some heavier rainfall, maybe some upper elevation snow there. But by and large, it's going to be very quiet across the center of the country going through much of next weekend for that first weekend in February. But the long-range temperature pattern does look to become a little colder across the western two-thirds of the country going into the second week in February, from February 5th through the 11th. So this is beyond next weekend, and that southeast ridge does remain intact. It does also look very busy as well across the center of the country, from the southern plains and the Red River all the way up through the Missouri Valley and the central Great Lakes as we get in towards the second week in February. So what we're seeing is that subtropical jet activated into the second week in February, rounding the base of these troughs that start to originate across the west and move across the center of the country. And wherever we see that low pressure system set up here, whether it's in New Mexico or North Texas or even Oklahoma, those low pressure systems are likely to move up across the Missouri Valley and somewhere across the Ohio Valley and central Great Lakes regions. To the southeast of these lows, we're going to see more heavy rain and stormy weather, possibly some severe weather with that ridge in place across the southeast, and then a mixture of sleet, freezing rain, and all precipitation types within the exact path of these lows right underneath the upper level low. And then to the northwestern side of this, all that cold air filtering in, heavy snow is likely somewhere across portions of the central plains, the northern plains, and also portions of the upper Midwest going into the second full week in February. So to recap my weather forecast for you guys, a northeast snow will continue through late tonight. Severe weather will occur across the Gulf Coast later on today through this evening. An Arctic plunge will take over from tomorrow on Monday through early February, and then we're keeping all eyes on that significant winter storm next week with crippling ice and heavy rainfall possible across especially the southern plains into the mid-Mississippi Valley as we head through next week. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. If you remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. Get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great weekend, everybody, a great Sunday, and I will see you all in the next video.